Buenos dias, everybody. We
Good
are back for
morning.
Buenos
another
dias. Good morning, good people.
I
Yes.
Win morning show. You guys look so good. It's like,
You too.
Me too. So
yo,
vibrant.
I
Yes.
cannot believe that this is the fourth week.
Yeah, this is the last
Week four, y'all. Week
yeah.
four
Indeed.
of January
Yes.
2024. Like, it's amazing how the first half of the year goes by really fast. So, since we back, good to see everybody. Lots of good morning comments already. I would definitely say y'all good morning. It's the last full week of January 2024. How has the
Mm.
year been so far? Like, what's new? How is everybody feeling? Go ahead and check in the comments. Dr. Danny and Tanya, I love starting my week off
With
uh,
y'all.
with y'all. I mean, meditation,
Same here.
prayer, all of that. And then it's like I get to see these two beautiful sisters on Monday morning. Brothers, listen, let me tell y'all, those who are checked in, because it is some brothers who are starting to check into the morning show. I know it ain't for me.
Hold
So
on.
Come on in the room.
I'm just saying
Come
that.
on.
Good morning, though, to everyone. It is an honor, really, to be on with you guys. And I definitely got to shout out more people are tuning in to YouTube. So I'm hoping that
Yes.
their
The numbers
comments
are growing.
are coming through. And people that check us out on Twitter are like, I'm gonna just post my comment, and then it'll be 5 o'clock on Monday, and I'm like, oh man, somebody tweeted this.
We need that applause. You don't have the applause sound effect?
Oh,
Honey,
you know what? I will have to ask them. We got the organ. We got very churched up.
baby,
We
where
gonna
is your
have the
assistant?
applause.
Your assistant needs to be on those applause. We know who the family
Yes.
assistant is, honey. Good morning,
I
honey.
like these
Yes.
applause. That is a good thing. But yes, it's good to see everyone back. I hope everyone has had a blessed weekend. I'm saying I'm getting y'all prepared. I'm getting y'all prepared because we are having a conversation today, y'all. We are having a conversation today. But welcome back to the I Wear Morning Show. Now, I'm sure we're getting all these good morning messages. But in case you missed this one, tag 5 people into the conversation this morning who you want to win. I got my notes, y'all, printed out. So things that I want to talk about, not just in Jay's Corner, but throughout the conversation. So make sure that you connect people in if you're watching on Twitter, YouTube, IG. Thank God they are starting to get connected. We'll be able to stream it on IG soon. So wherever you are connected to this conversation, please make sure that you invite others in. But this is the I Win team, Professor JBA, Dr. Danny Speaks, and Tanya, who is going to bring us some tea this morning. So again, good morning to everybody that is checked in. Yes.
Good
All right,
morning.
guys. So listen, I am loving all of the comments that we're seeing. I want to go right to it and get to Jay's Corner on this morning. It's so
Come
cute.
on.
I got a good design for my background. Boom. Jay's
Okay.
Corner,
There you go.
y'all.
Okay.
Jay's Corner. Listen, I am super excited about everything that's upcoming. I am thankful that there's a great need for this work to be done, and just super excited. So everybody, make sure you go to educationalentities.com. RSVP for the Black Male Educator Appreciation Day at the Capitol. Y'all listen, this is the 5th annual one. The 5th annual one. I have to again shout out Black women because Black women are awesome, right? The Black Male Educator Appreciation Day was made possible 2 reasons. One, my former students. Major shout out to the students at Seven Pillars Career Academy. Many of them you see on the Students for Equity podcast that will be coming back this year. But Honorable Representative Valencia Stovall, she was like, we are advocating for single moms and grandparents and generational families and Black women in ministry. We're advocating for everyone. And I was like, but nobody is really celebrating like Black male educators and what we do, what we bring to the table. So this is our 5th year doing it. And I can tell you guys, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be a lot of phenomenal things happening this year. So go to educationalentities.com and not only sign up for the I Win morning show, but RSVP for the Black Male Educator Appreciation Day at the Capitol. I am sending love and prayers to people all across the world. We recently buried a matriarch in our family, Shirley Rose, who is my great-grandmother Lily's niece. My grandma Carolyn often calls her like a big sister because she's the only child. And so, growing up in the country, it's like my grandma Lily was right here, Aunt Shirley was right here, cousin so-and-so was right here. So everybody grew up together, but we recently sent her on to glory. That's what the old people say. And phenomenal. She has the largest lineage of Allens in our family.
I saw that. We
had hundreds of people
at
our family reunion, almost 400 last year.
What?
But Shirley Rose herself has 99 plus grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. Just Shirley Rose by herself.
Come on, Shirley.
She is definitely on the Mount Rushmore of our family. Our ancestors, Lewis and Sarah Allen, our great-great-great-grandfather, Lewis Allen, who was, of course, a freed slave. He had 21 children.
Wow,
I know. So just
that's
thinking
a
about
whole
family
neighborhood right there.
A whole neighborhood, a town,
whole
a city.
subdivision, baby.
I'm finding cousins here in
town.
Atlanta who are like, we are cousins. We saw you at the reunion. I'm like, oh my God. So this it's an amazing thing, family. It is. It is. Family is a beautiful thing. So speaking of family, shout out to Philly, New Jersey, upstate, North Carolina. I saw people from North Carolina who were saying good morning. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Last but not least, Diane Powell Lachey. I want to say I'm saying her last name correct. She was a PR person here in Atlanta. Beautiful woman, phenomenal. She actually, come to find out, she was one of the very first people that helped Stephen Lee to get us school supplies for our back to school event. She recently passed away, and my parents did her funeral program, and I was just sitting here reading through it. And one of the things that stood out to me, and then guys, I promise you, I'm passing the mic. Dedicated and destined, simply divine. And that was her way of living. That was her mindset. And that's what she did and set out to help so many people right here in the city of Atlanta. So may her soul rest in peace. She was definitely celebrated this past week. And that's everything in Jay's Corner, just reminding us that there is importance and unity in family and in the village you create. So stick with that, y'all. So that was Jay's Corner for this morning. Again, thank you everybody who was tuned in. And Dr. Danny, I know what the people really, really want. First thing in the morning, and that is, y'all already know that they coming because Dr. Danny
go to church yesterday.
Speaks is up next, and she is bringing our words of affirmation. And baby, I'm passing the mic right over to you.
I received that, Mike. Good morning, and my condolences to your family, Jason. But let me shout out really quick, since I do have the mic. Let me shout out Allen's Printing and how they make the toughest times in people's lives in the midst of grief beautiful moments to capture and how to celebrate your folks in style. So I just want to do that little plug in real quick because I'm telling you, if you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
Now you know. Now I'm going to do something a little bit differently today because I want to ensure that you know that I am not just writing my own affirmations, but I am paying attention and looking for inspiration myself because we all need to be fed, right? As we give, we also need to receive. And so I did a little affirmation shopping this weekend. And I found some that really stuck out to me. So I'm not going to give you just one. Dr. Day's going to give you 3. I'm going to give you 3 to keep you throughout the whole week, okay? So here's the first one. This is inspired by Winston Churchill. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. That's number 1.
All right.
This one is from your very own Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. And how many of us know there are no small things? There's greatness in all the things that we do. Okay.
Hallelujah.
All right. Number 3.
Hallelujah.
There you go. I heard the claps. You must do the things you think you cannot do. You must do the things you think you cannot do. That comes from Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yes.
And those are the affirmations for today. Now, Jason and Tanya, I do want to put this out there, a call to action for all of our viewers.
I love it.
Show us what inspiration looks like to you. Send some inspirations that you would love for us to share here. Visit Dr. Danny Speaks on Instagram. Send them to me so we can acknowledge you and your inspiration so we can spread the inspiration around the world to all the viewers that are watching. All right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I want to kind of do a little contest too, because I know that Dr. Danny has an education advocacy awareness group on Facebook. So let's not we ain't gonna sleep on Facebook. If you are watching live on Facebook from one of the groups on Facebook, then definitely shout us out and let us know which group you're in and what group you're connected to, so we can definitely shout out those persons who are sharing and organizing in different Facebook groups for the I Win Morning Show. Dr. Danny, thank you so much for not just one,
beautiful.
not just 2, but 3 affirmations this morning. Now listen,
and
y'all,
I thought you mixed it up. You had African American, you had one of our foremost leaders, you had a woman, and then you had a member of the patriarchy that we all know. But you mixed that thing up because I think it shows us that you can retrieve something good from just about anywhere.
That's right.
Well, my father used to say all the time, baby, you don't need, it was not quite this nice. If they got 20%, you take that. 30, you take that, because you're trying to get to 100. So if that is the 20% that they had to give, or the 30 or the 40, we're going to take that and we're going to run with it throughout this day. And I challenge everybody to pick one of those 3 to lead them this weekend.
That's good. I love that point that you made, Tanya. And Dr. Danny, I will add to your affirmations that it also is hard to find the good in not just people, but sometimes just the good in life. And I think that these affirmations really help to center us. My favorite word, or my word for this year, is balance. And so, Dr. Danny, all of those things jump out to me in hearing the words that you read, and just the connectivity, again, that Tanya highlighted to that point. So, Tanya, we're going to pass the mic to you, because we know that it is time for the tea with Tanya. It is time for the tea, y'all, with Tanya. So, Tanya, go ahead and bring it to us.
Honey, we are sipping on a few things out of the community. Let's start with the fact that this Republican nominee race, maybe Ron withdrew, Ron ran on out of here. Baby Nimrata, aka Nikki, denouncing and talking about the ease of slavery. Baby, listen to me. That slavery wasn't that bad, or trying to just downplay it again. Here we are. Sweetheart, if slavery was not bad, if it is not still present in the times that we live in, why are you not using your indigenous name? Leave that right there. Okay, because we all know why. Student loan forgiveness, honey. Uncle Joe is tipping on in there once again with a little student loan forgiveness. For those of you that have been diligent and paying your $20 every month for the last 20 years, baby, you in there like swimwear. And congratulations to you. Because we know, one of the things that I saw, I'll say real quick, a commentary on this. People are in the battles about whether they're going to vote for Trump or Biden. And a sister said, you're talking about a check that Trump did. A lot of the youth, a lot of young folk are talking about that. Some of the, older people, businessmen, Black men, are advocates for him as well.
That stimulus check.
That stimmy, that good old stimmy. But here's a point that she made. Do you know how student loan debt has so many people in a chokehold and has had people in a chokehold, and how by eliminating that, you now allow so many of us who did not know the loopholes to get through things didn't have the trust funds or any of the, even not a trust fund, but didn't even have our parents did not have the foresight to save for us, or could have, or were able to. So now you're talking about how this impacts generational wealth for people of color. And I don't think people are looking at that in that way and getting the big picture. So we're going to talk about student loan forgiveness. So we're going to thank Uncle Joe and Auntie Kamala for doing that. The Book of Clarence, lots of conversation about that, and we're going to get back to that today. And then I want you all to run, and I do mean on this keyboard with your own feet, put it in your cart and just pull up and get it. But baby, this Black History Month adult legendary Roots Queen Crops, baby, get in at Target. And I found this little find this week. Go ahead and over to Target, because we know that they have been leading in supporting all of our African American entrepreneurs. I started with Auntie Tab. It didn't start with Auntie Tab, but she has definitely blown it up. So let me say this: run on over to Target. They had bags, t-shirts, hats, everything, and there are bottoms to this. This is a whole sweatsuit, honey. So run on over to Target. It's on sale now, and get it before it is gone. To not just celebrate us for 1 month out of the year, but for 12 months out of the year, which we so richly and justly deserve.
I love that.
Can I add a little sugar to that tea real quick about Target?
Yes, honey, sweeten it on up.
Well, actually, it's a little bitter, so I don't know what to put in there. But
listen.
I think they're trying to clean up from what they did with the LGBTQ pride thing.
At Target.
I
do.
Last year, I'm wondering if they're trying to divert.
They fumbled that bag, but I'm still say that they were representing and they have been one of the leaders in allowing Black-owned brands to put their wares, everything from hair care to skincare, in their store. Now, True. Target did fumble that bag for the LGBTQIA plus community. Yes. But honey, I say, I'm gonna give them a little forgiveness, and I'm gonna go on and get my Black history wear.
There you go.
Don't count any of us out, Target. And I think they learned that lesson too, because people spanked them.
That's true. And Dr. Danny,
thank you for pointing that out, Dr. Danny.
Brought up a good point, and Brother Kenny has a question. Are we making the money off these shirts? Is this turning into a Hallmark holiday for the Supreme, as they say? And I respect that. Now, I do know that there are businesses, local and those that have like brands in different stores throughout the nation. One of the young ladies who's on a reality TV show on OWN Network was talking about how a lot of their brands are thriving and being picked up and put into more stores. So I will say that we are seeing Black entrepreneurs that are in Target and other stores seeing the bottom dollar now in regards to being there. So thank you for highlighting that. And
these are Black-owned brands. So these entrepreneurs that are making these wares and putting them in Target are Black-owned brands and companies. So yes, we are seeing the benefit of that dollar, but that is a very good point, because we know that they will make a dollar off of our backs in a second.
And let's be real, you make it look good, Sonya. So
they need to be sending you something. And look, brand ambassador for the I Win Morning Show. I'm wearing this every Monday, guys. Let me go ahead and help you putting that out there. I also want to just highlight this too, and major shout out again for Brother Kenny highlighting this. If it's even not Target, y'all, let me also remind you that it's the Black dollar. We have the data behind this. We'll drop some data points on this later, but we do know that the Black dollar does drive our economy. And so we are the ones that make these brands grow in Target, in Bloomingdale's, in Macy's, in Walmart, in other stores. But let me also be real and say we also make these brands grow in the street, in the local flea markets, in the church parking lots, in the practices for our young people, where a lot of these young entrepreneurs are out selling their brands, even at events. And so this isn't anything new. It's just different. But also let's make sure that we are doing it locally for people that we see as well. That's the point that I wanted to highlight. All right, Tanya, thank you for the tea. I love the tea. And listen, y'all see us with our coffee mugs. Don't worry, we've been talking about it since season 1. I Win coffee mugs are coming soon. Talking about brands. If you have a brand, if you are a brand master and you can design and put together a I Win Morning Show cup, t-shirt, sweatshirt, then y'all holler at us and let us know. Now, Dr. Danny and Tanya, I gotta say, I'm excited about the conversation this morning. I hope people are tuning in. Shout out to my sister Coolia. I just saw get connected. Shout out to Brandon, B. Kyle. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm seeing it as it comes in. All right, guys, listen. We are set this morning to talk about something phenomenal that I think is phenomenal, and it actually is making some headlines. It is called the Book of Clarence. Now, Dr. Danny and Tanya, y'all know me. I've been up early this morning reading, and I was like, man, this is interesting because there's a lot happening with the representation of Blackness, not just in media, but in society. So I have like a couple of questions, and these are things that you guys know. It's more so your feedback because I'm very curious about your thoughts on this. So I do want to ask you guys, we're going to start with the Book of Clarence, but I want to ask you guys about Black representation and just the representation of Blackness and how you, as an individual, not representing the church, not representing your business, just representing you as an individual, how do you feel about the Book of Clarence? We talked about The Color Purple. There's a lot of hype around the American Society of Magical Negroes and how a lot of people feel like films are coming out and they're pushing an agenda to whitewash Blackness. But also there's outrage even in the music industry where in one breath you have women, Black women, and people that are like, Sexy Red is pregnant, but she's twerking and like smoking, pregnant with a child. And people are applauding that, but people want Lil Nas X banned. So it's a lot with Black representation and things that are happening in our society. And I'm just curious as to the representation of Blackness. Why do we show up in these different ways? And a lot of times we only see other cultures show up in one way, and we show up in multiple ways. I'm very curious about your thoughts. I know the Book of Clarence is our topic of conversation, and one of the biggest things, if you have not watched the Book of Clarence, one of the biggest critiques of the Book of Clarence is representation and how Black people are represented throughout the film. So it's very interesting. So I wanted to start just with the Book of Clarence and maybe highlighting representation, but also just thinking about representation and maybe the double standard of Blackness that we see in our society. So Dr. Danny, I know you saw the film, the Book of Clarence. So I am, and this also came up in, hold on, I have a public service announcement. I Change Collaborative, y'all, has a phenomenal men's circle. It connects with the work that we're doing with the National Parents Union. If you haven't joined us, nationalparentsunion.org. Dr. Danny is joining today. I Change Collaborative. I gotta say that. Phenomenal conversation though around this, and so I want to highlight Dr. Danny's work with I Change Collaborative, and now I am officially passing the mic to you, Dr. Danny, because I want to hear your thoughts to open us up about the Book of Clarence and maybe some of the themes that you saw and connect to.
Okay, so let me just start off with saying I was yet again confused by a film, by the advertisement. Same way I was confused with Color Purple. So let's level the playing field here. Let's just level the playing field. My expectation was, it was about it being more about the Bible itself. And so when I went in, I was
a church hat on when you went in.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what's happening here? And I am a believer, so I had to check myself for a second, like, wait, did I miss something? All right, so but beyond that, let me just say what you had already have established, Jason, is that this was a film where representation really showed up, like it was there. It was a Black film that had a It wasn't exclusively a black cast because there were some people that were not of color in the cast. But people assume by looking at the poster, this is an all black cast. Right. Again, the assumptions. And so when you go in there, you're wondering like really what to expect. You have no idea what to expect. But let me just say, despite no matter what their color was or that they were all black, they all were so talented. And what I'm saying is from every small role to big role, you had Alfre Woodard who came out of nowhere.
Right.
I saw that all-star cast and I was like, okay. I haven't seen it, but it made me say maybe I want to go see it.
Yes.
I've been reading the reviews and the mixed emotions on it though.
Yeah. Well, I think I talked to a friend of mine who I said, I would love to talk to people about this, but I can't imagine churches supporting this because of the assumption of what this represents.
And I would think that is a reason that they would support going and seeing it so they can actually spark the dialogue that is needed in the church.
Yeah, that's good, Tanya. That's a good point. And I'm glad that Dr. Danny highlighted that. I'm trying to tag one of my colleagues at William Murphy's church right now because I would love for a church that is not too far away from old school tradition, but not too far into new school, to have a conversation with older saints, with those who are middle-aged, with younger people around this film, and really breaking down some of the hard topics of conversation to help bridge the gap so that, yes, we all have different perspectives, but we still have a love for God. We still have a love for Christ. Now, how do we come together in our differences and move the church forward into the next generation? And I think that it's a conversation that has not been had in a very long time, but it should very well be had.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think that one of the things that totally stands out is how extremely intelligent the lead role was. He represented what modern day, I would say men, I'm not even going to say black men, what men I believe go through. It's the struggle. Clarence was trying to just get by. He had real life issues. And I think one of the biggest takeaways I took out of it, because it was a reoccurring theme, was this person struggled with really understanding part of his identity because his twin brother was the polar opposite. So they even looked alike. And so what the struggle was one represented belief, the other represented knowledge.
Come on, and help us, Dr. Danny. Yeah. I want to stay right there though. Belief and knowledge. And that rang so true to me in the film because I saw a lot of how classism in our everyday society plays a role. Like a lot of people will say, we come from privilege. I'm just being honest. Tanya, Dr. Danny, like we come from privilege. And a lot of times, when I was a little bit younger, because I'm still young, y'all. When I was a little bit younger, that would kind of offend me because I'm like, privilege? Baby, we used to have to boil water and things that I would see my parents have to do, like taking another job to make sure that me and my sisters had what we need. Like the things that black families go through to make sure that they make ends meet, but also thrive in that process. It's not easy. I think people think like, oh yeah, it's really easy, but it's not. So I had to take a step back and look at the classism and how once you do have knowledge, it does help you get power. And what do you do with that? And I think a lot of people get stuck in the classism of this is where we are. This is how we live. This is our way of living. And we a lot of times don't move outside of that. And I saw a lot of those things moving in the film that I thought were powerful because it really reflected where we are right now in today's society.
Well, let's talk about privilege though, because see, that's a big word, and we associate privilege with finances. But I think even in the film, privilege really takes on a different take. I mean, there's a different take to it. Privilege, I feel, is displayed with what you know and knowledge and belief. It's a little bit of both. The wealth of knowledge, the wealth of belief, the wealth of faith. People who walk around here who don't have faith, they are not privileged in having optimism and hope. So I think there's privilege in even having that type of hope. We take that for granted. And so even your view of privilege can be very, very different in how you view privilege in comparison to everyone else in society. Again, is really important because where you're sitting really does determine or dictate how privileged you think you are.
That's good.
I want to
That is good.
So I want to piggyback on that too. A couple things. One, I saw a comment that says, "So you're gonna swag? So you're on the swag and surf,
Yeah.
more with that in church?" And what I want to say is, one of the religion, just like politics, is so polarizing. And Dr. Danny, I'm gonna get back to that comment. What you said about privilege is very key. Privilege does not necessarily mean that you are well off as it pertains to money.
That's
You
good.
are privileged to have gotten a college education. When you look at the stats, you are up there. You're that alone. We're going to knowledge puts you in a different zone to be able to have a larger earning capacity, to have the wherewithal. When I think about the work we've all done in educational advocacy,
Yes.
we are
Yes.
privileged to have understood what school choice was. I was doing school choice with my three long before it became a thing or a term, because I understood that Black boys are not a monolith. They all learn differently. I did not have the same child 3 times, and that they all went to different schools. At one
That's
point
right.
in a day, I was going to 3 different schools because I wanted them educated in the best way for them. And so my privilege of having come from all educators in my family, having been college educated myself, working in the educational system afforded me the opportunity to know what my rights were, as a parent, and to be able to exercise my rights as a parent.
Yes.
Now, for me, reading the reviews on the film and understanding what it's about, so much in here is even with our own people about racial identity, religious identity, because some of us cannot view that film with an all-Black cast because we are still tied to a white Jesus. And we can't even see through what was being put before us in a way, because there is a mindset. And when I say tied to that picture that used to be in your grandma's room with Dr. King,
Yeah. You're right.
President Kennedy, and Jesus were all sitting up there together, like they would have the Trinity. And there is a mindset that goes along with still being tied to that and not understanding, like I do, having lived in the Middle East, having looked at the original scrolls from the Qumran caves and being able to read Hebrew very well at the time, speak it, understand the language, know that everybody in that region looked like the 3 people on the screen, right? And
Yeah.
so it's not far-fetched for me to be able to look at a film like that or see any films other than Charlton Heston, Partner Red Sea, Honey Every Easter. So I think there's so much tied into the reviews that I'm reading about the film, people's opinions about it, their racial identity. And then I'll go a step further to say many just church folk are privileged, because many of our affluent churches drive right through some of the worst areas and are established there. And we drive our nice cars in and we drive our nice cars back out, but we don't really see what is around us. And so understanding that sometimes there's a socioeconomic association with the privilege of even being affiliated with the church, all of that plays into what I've been reading. What was interesting to me, though, was how, did you all read about how the Britain debut, the London
Oh,
debut,
yes.
was pushed back?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm like,
And
So
it was banned in some places. Major shout out to Dr. Danny for sharing that data too.
yeah. So we're, again, we're talking about the film, but in many instances, like I would be interested to see where they allowed the color purple in other countries to play and debut, and are not allowing or have banned the Book of Clarence.
That's good.
Very
That's
interested.
good.
I think we should do a little dive into that data and see, because it's about the narrative that is allowed to be told about our people,
That's
and
good.
allow other people to see us in a way that many of us have been able to see ourselves.
Y'all have to stay tuned now, because we're bringing our good friend back who was on when we kicked off the show and we talked about The Color Purple.
Rondo.
We're scheduled to talk about Rustin. But also, I want to be able to track that data, Tanya. I'm glad that Dr. Danny loves a data piece. So
That's why I want to call her out.
Contrast that. I wrote that down in my notes because I know that he is scheduled to come back. And I also, Dr. Danny, he's going to be like, man, listen, y'all going to have me on every month. But I'm curious about this too, because
film series.
Yes, because it's all about representation. And even when we think about what's happening in our society right now, with the way in which we vote and how we're civically engaged. And a lot of people are like, okay, we have a lot of things distracting us from what's politically happening. And then a lot of film also helps interpret, what we're living in right now in today's society. Why in 2024 are we still on a two-party system when we know
it doesn't work,
that this needs to change? And so it's reminding me of a conversation we've had on the show before about tradition and how hard it is to create new traditions while also living through things that have been like a part of the way we believe and the way that we think and the way that we socialize for so long. And so as an educator, I will say this. We have been fighting, reimagining how we do school and education for so long, but we know it's time to change. I see this same thing, having been the trustee chair of my church for 10 years. Like I see the same thing within the church. I see the same thing in how we design cities and how we, are building community. Like these things did work in the early 1900s and maybe even before then, but we have advanced technology and it's a different time. So I'm not saying change our beliefs. I'm saying that maybe we need to fine tune and reimagine how we do these things, because we have to realign with the people who are in today's society. I think we're doing things for people who are in another society, and baby, they ain't here. So we got to do things to reach the people who are here.
Well, I also think we have to be sensitive to faith, the religious sector too. I understand the reservations. I think one of the things that's quite comical is I know people who are seeing this thinking that there really is a book of Clarence in the Bible.
Oh, Jesus, almost.
There's not. There might have been somewhere, but there's really not. So this is not Bible study necessarily. Like, don't go in there thinking this is church.
It's not the Passion of Christ.
I say that with love because, people are going to go in there going, oh, now I'm a believer because Clarence was Black. That is not a religion. Clarence is not a religion. Like, this is, again, a story.
They might start one, honey.
This is a story.
We have seen it all.
Right.
Donald Duck was president. Anything can happen.
You're right.
This is a story that was told in biblical times. And I just want to make sure that that's clear. But even in that, there are pieces of the film that really do embrace some of those symbols of Christianity or religion that are quite comical. Like Ray had just mentioned, they still have a white person looking Jesus that's in there. Yeah. But the person who portrays Jesus, who is separate from Clarence, is a Black man. So it goes back to what you were saying, Tanya, about like where it's being banned and why is it being banned? Is it being banned because we are dispelling the myth that Jesus, being a white man, or are we dispelling the myth that Black people or people of color, darker shades, existed in biblical times? Are we dispelling the myth that there could be a movie about people of color that doesn't show us as slaves being whipped, raped, beaten,
prostitutes, pimps,
right?
Banging, shooting each other.
What part of it really is a problem? And maybe it's all of those. But
I think it is. I think it is all of it. I think that is the challenge. It's like
it's the narrative.
We also don't want to see people as everyday people. Like, if there's Jesus is my homeboy, Jesus is my homie, and I love that when it came out. It was like, oh yeah, Jesus is my homie. But the reality is people thought that was so bad. Jesus is my homie. Jesus ain't no homie. And I wanted to be like, but Jesus is, because homie really just means that's my brother. That's my friend. But we get so caught up in the semantics too. And let's be honest, that is the reality. We want to see Jesus as the white evangelicals. They want to see him on the cross because it's like that's the thing. Like that's the satire. We want to see that somebody has suffered for us, and it's taken away all of the bad that so many people may do in this world. Like we love that. We fantasize on that, and we have to be honest about that. But we also are caught up in the notion that Jesus only just gives. Like and a lot of people do this in their ministry. Oh, on Saturdays we're giving back to the homeless, and I'm not saying that that's wrong at all. These are all different aspects of Christ. I also feel like as an organizer, Christ is the person who was the organizer. Y'all, people also don't want to hone in on Christ being an organizer. Christ was the original. Like when we think about people who were in the streets and really ministering to people, and I'm listening to you, but I'm not gossiping. I'm listening to your story so that I can actually give you words of encouragement and affirmations to help you to find healing. That was his work in the street. That was his work in ministry. That's why the gangsters and the potheads and the prostitutes and the everyday people, the working families respected him, because he was amongst the people. And I think that we have lost that. I saw a lot of that representation of Christ in the film, and I think that a lot of people forget that outside of the wonderful miracles and the nice church and the ceremonial things that we do, Christ was an everyday person. He was an organizer in the streets, healing and working with the people. And so that was something that was definitely highlighted in the film as well. And I think a lot of people don't want to accept that everyday presentation of Christ.
But don't forget, as a reminder, everybody, Clarence was not Christ. Clarence was the false prophet. So just as a reminder, what Jason just said is not pertaining to Jesus. Jesus was a separate person in the film too.
Yes. I'm glad you highlighted. For those who did not see it.
Who did not see it. Right. Yes. Now I do. Okay. I'm going to deviate to something else real quick because I know we're pressed for time. But this is kind of like, it goes back to why youth ministry is so important in our churches.
Oh, damn.
And this is a whole other topic. But when there is this lack of intersectionality within churches, where you see churches that lack generation representation, diversity and generation representation, this is why it's important. Because it's not that we can't learn from each other, because we can and we should, but how are we learning from each other? Because working with youth, it takes a very special person. Yeah. And the way that our young people communicate is not going to be the same way that our elders communicate. However, our elders have to find a way to communicate and to be receptive to the fact that how you have been raised, how you see the world, is very different from the generation that's coming behind you. And don't forget, our elders and the elderly, you are passing the torch. See, you have to plant the seeds. You have to be able to find the connection so you all can learn from each other, because the church will die if you don't allow that to happen. I see churches that are dying because they want to have a youth ministry, but don't want to communicate with the youth. And when I say communicate, I mean, don't want to listen, don't want to be more open-minded and receptive, that just because somebody says certain ways that are not pleasing in your sight, because you're not used to it, doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong. So you have to kind of check yourself too. And our languages are different. How we communicate is different.
That's good.
Yeah. How we see the world is different. Yeah. But it is very much possible for us to connect, to understand each other. So I just want to put that out there. And I think this was a beautiful depiction of that.
Yes, that was good.
I want to say something. When I work with parents, I'm doing parent workshops and talking with families, doing family counseling. One of the things that I always put forth is something that I realized and was taught in a class years ago. If you could imagine your 50-year-old self talking to your 13-year-old child, you are coming from a 50-year-old perspective. The
Yeah.
13-year-old does not have capacity to understand it.
Right.
I don't care how slow you talk. I don't care how much you say it. I was almost banging my head on the wall raising 3 teens. And then I realized I need to speak teen, not bringing it down to a level, but making it plain in a way that I wanted them. You have to speak to people with love, like you want them to hear and understand what you are saying. And so with parenting, I always challenge parents, right? You 56 talking to a 20-year-old, like they're gonna fully have the capacity to understand what you're saying. And they don't even have that ability to reason. They don't have that experience. And so sometimes when we are working with people, we're talking about the older generation understanding. We have to, and people can go back and say, oh, well, when we were little, but you didn't understand. It was children are seen and not heard. And you went through a lot of your childhood confused. You did. And we don't need to keep doing that. So I hear you with that. You have to, there's an art to communicating with younger people and younger generations. And I will say, just like the church is an institution, the school is an institution which is dying as we know it. That's why we can't reach our children, because again, we refuse to understand that they have voice and allow the work that we do to be centered by their voice. And we mute them, which means we don't get the benefit of understanding how to do better. So schools are losing students, churches are losing families. Some of these, the community center is closing because we have lost the ability to communicate with the next generation.
That's good. That is good, y'all. The Book of Clarence has really opened up a really deep conversation around, most importantly, connectivity. And that is a reoccurring theme. And community. And community looks different, y'all. And Dr. Danny and Tanya really connected the dots with representation and how we aren't connecting with everyday people. And so I want to challenge everybody who's listening. How are you connecting to everyday people? Because a lot of times we have these conversations, and now when the I Win show ends in a few moments, you still got to connect with people that you work with. You have to connect with people in your village. How are you connected with your family members? Like, have you even connected with family, with those in your village? And I'll be quite honest, a lot of people don't like themselves. So have you connected with self? These are big things before you can properly or effectively communicate with someone else. And I'm gonna be honest, people it's weary trying to read somebody's personality, and I gotta read your horoscope, and your mood is changed. Like you gotta try to no, baby, use your words, communicate. Hey, I don't feel well this morning. When somebody says that to me out of that, I'm already like, okay, let me put on some soft music. Because I want to have a peaceful atmosphere, and I also want you to be better so that you don't bring strife or negativity into my circle of peace. So just be communication. Sometimes it may not be in a perfect way, but open your mouths, write a note, a smoke. It's something to communicate how you feel. We've got to work on our communication. Dr. Danny.
Yes, I was going to respond to what Ray had put in the chat box too, and connect that to what you just said about communication. I think one of the biggest things that you can do right now, if you have a desire to communicate, is to reserve judgment. Yes. And to say, I don't understand you and you might not understand me. But again, I go back to the Book of Clarence, where you got two sides, belief and knowledge, and understanding like the only way we're going to be able to communicate with each other is to remove some of that judgment.
Yes. Wait a minute. Say that, Dr. Dana, say that one more time. To remove some of that
judgment.
She did not say remove your belief. She did not say remove what is dear to your heart or your perspective. And a lot of people miss that because you can't remove judgment because you feel like I have to let go of my faith or what I believe or who I am. And she did not say that. That is not what she said, which lets you know that it's possible to have conversations with people who are different, who have different perspectives, who have different experiences, and still not be at each other's throats and not be negative and not tearing somebody down or not being judgmental. And I really, really hope that those who are watching this take this away at the final hour, that if you remove the judgment first, you can communicate more effectively and possibly build better relationships.
Even with yourself.
Yes, I love
Stop
that.
judging yourself first, and then you will magically possess the ability to not judge others.
Yes.
Yeah, so the Book of Clarence is fictional, but let me tell you, you may need to
I'm
tap
thinking about
into
the book of Danny, the book of Dr.
Book of-
Danny. Honey,
look, a Book of Danny.
the way she broke that thing down, honey. Broke it
Listen,
down.
y'all, it's 11 minutes after the
Okay.
hour. It's so funny because I'm working on a series of books, and I was like, man, I want to write a updated version of Proverbs and Psalms. Like, how do we take everyday common language and put it into something that is like affirmations, but it's a little bit more centered around spiritual growth and faith. I've really been thinking a lot about that because we do have to update. How do we update what we see in the world and how we exist in the world? So, listen, y'all. The I Win team is back. We got a couple of other holidays coming up throughout the year, but y'all know on holidays, we are on a holiday break. So with that being said, the show is on and popping next Monday, 7:15 a.m. We are going to have our good friend back very soon, and we're going to be talking about a follow-up on that data from the films and maybe some of the other films that are representing Blackness, because that's a major thing, y'all. Love somebody, hug somebody, go to nationalparentsunion.org. Join us
You're
today.
ready for the week of action coming up soon.
Yes. The week of action
National
is
Week of Action for National Parents Union is going to be dope.
yes, Georgia Parent Week of Action, February the 5th through the 10th.
Yes, I said
Tanya,
that
major
right.
shout out to you for helping us with this. We got a lot of great things happening, y'all. So make sure you go on my page. Anywhere you will see me post about it. We have some phenomenal things coming up, including a Let's Learn Together webinar, which is free. It's on Wednesday. If you have a nephew, niece, child, you have a loved one that learns differently, has a disability, we're bringing families together to let people know, listen, we all learn differently, so we have to do this together. But then we'll be at the Capitol on February the 8th celebrating Black men. We will be celebrating the Grandfather of the Year from Lily's Foundation at the Capitol, because there are grandfathers that are raising school-age children and who we don't even hear their stories or know who they are. So again, y'all, get connected to what we're doing. Brothers Brunch is doing a phenomenal social, emotional, men's and mental health. I like to call it a mixer on Tuesday evenings. Brother Kenneth does this every second Tuesday out in Douglasville, but he has partnered with us to do something for this week of action and men and mental health. Powerful ongoing conversation. Again, major shout out to I Change Collaborative Men's Group that wants to also be a part of that conversation on February the 6th, which is a Tuesday evening. So there is a lot. We have a literacy festival on Saturday doing the Right to Read screening and Q&A. So it's a lot. We have elected officials who are connected. We have working dads that are connected. We have young people, older people, middle, everybody.
The whole family.
Yes, so it's going to be super dope. So we had to do that public service announcement to close us out. But y'all, it is the last full week of January. Do something great. Be great.
Update,
remember,
balance. Take any of these.
I thought you said have a high date, and that's what took me low. But if you need to have a date, go ahead and do that too.
I said update.
Update, I know.
We're just talking about updating the things that we need to update and bring them present to present day times. So maybe someone is still needing to update to 24. They haven't quite made it here yet. Go ahead and do that this week.
Go ahead and do that this week. Thank you, Tanya, for centering us. And again, guys, powerful conversation. Go see the Book of Clarence and some of the other things. Make sure you also plug into some good music. I'm thinking about Andre 3000's meditation album, and do not forget about that, because people need some healing and meditation. Gotta say that. All right, y'all, listen, we are in. It's 8:15, so we are signing out. We'll see y'all next week, 7:15
Have a winning week.
Yes. Win, y'all.
I wasn't
Go
throwing up
win.
gang signs. That was a W for a win.
I was about to start praying because I was like, I don't know what time you're doing, y'all, but you know we love
Lord help
y'all.
us.
Throw up the peace, throw up the Christ sign.